So here, I have a particular book summary, of the time paradox, right? So here, the new psychological of time, that will change your life, organized into thematic, right? Sections to guide guide you through the core concept, research and findings, and practical applications, right? So here I will start from the introduction, right? So I will start from the introduction. So here, an introduction and purpose of the book, right? That Philip Zimbardo, right, a philosopher, a psychologist, right, famous for the Stanford Prison Experiment, and co-author John Boyd drive into how our time perspectives and the habitual, that we called, ways we relate to our past, present and future unconsciously shape our emotions, choices and behaviors, right? So here they label this phenomenon, the time paradox, right? Because although time is the single constant in all our lives, we are rarely recognize its profound influence, right? So the ultimate goal is to help readers, right, identify their dominant time perspective, right, understand the biases these create, and just learn strategies to achieve a more balanced outlook, thereby enhancing well-being, relationships and success in life, right? So here the next point is that the 6 time perspectives. Zimbardo and Boyd classify individuals attitudes, right, towards time into 6 distinct perspectives. Each carries strengths when applied approximately, and pitfalls, right, when over or under emphasized, right? So your perspective orientations, core focus and traits, right? So your past positive looking back, fondly nostalgia, sentimental reflections, gratitudes foster strong identity and continuity, right? But can lead to live in the past or resisting change, right? So here post negative looking back, regretfully and dwelling on failures, here traumas and mistakes, right, associated with here depressions, anxiety and hostility, right? But can fuel lessons learned and resilience, right? Present hedonistic savoring the moment's pleasure, seeking spontaneity, and obviously risk taking brings joy and novelty, right? But risk impulsivity, right, addiction and obviously disregard for long-term outcomes, right? Present fantastic fatalistic, right, feeling powerless, belief that fate or external force control life, right? So it linked to helplessness, fatalism and obviously depression, but may reduce anxiety over uncontrollable events, right? So your future oriented plannings and goal delayed gratification, perseverance and obviously achievement focus, right? Here promotes academic career success, but can lead to workaholism and anxiety, right? So here transcendental your future belong beyond this life, thoughts about life after death, legacy and spiritual rewards, punishments, right? Influences obviously morality and altruism, right? But extreme focus can fuel escapism, right? So the third point is the time paradox, why it matters, right? The time paradox, why it matters, right? So here the point is the unseen driver of behavior. While we think of a personality or obviously upbringing as shaping us, Zimbardo shows that time perspective, even experts, and even stronger influence on daily choices, from what we eat to measure life decisions, right? So here the second point is source of mental biases, right? And over reliance or any one perspective creates cognitive distortions, right? For obviously instance in an obviously overly future-oriented persons may neglect relationships, whereas a past negative person may struggle to move forward at all, right? So here third point is the next point is impact on well-being, right? Research correlates balanced time perspectives with higher life satisfaction, lower stress and better mental and physical health, right? So in extremes by obviously contrast predict depression, aggression, addiction and academic or professional burnout, right? So the next point is measuring your time profile, the ZTPI. So Zimbardo and Boyd developed the Zimbardo time perspective inventory, that is called ZTPI, What is ZTPI is here Zimbardo time perspective inventory, a self-report, right? A self-report questionnaire, that assesses how obviously strongly you endorse, right, each of the 6 perspectives, how it works 56 times, rated on Likert scale, adding 6 scores, right? Purpose is what here, that to make you aware, right, of your chronotype and highlight which biases you might need correct or moderate, right? So the next point is what, the optimal balance profile, right? So you're through extensive empirical work, the author identified that the healthiest, most adaptive individuals typically score. So how on past, so I'm going to say high on past positive future and transcendental future, right? So moderate on present hedonistic, low on past negative and present fatalist, right? This combination terms the balanced time perspective that we call BTP enables, right? So constructive learning from the past, enjoyable of the present, right? Effective planning for the future, healthy attitudes toward mortality and obviously legacy, right? So next point is what, strategies here to rebalance your temporal outlook, right? So Zimbardo and Boyd offers physical I'm going to say offers practical exercises, what they call time therapy, right, to help readers shift towards a BTP, right? So reframing past negative into past positive, right? So journaling is what here, here that write down the 3 good things that happens each day to build gratitude, right? So here guided imaginary recalls positive memories in vivid details, right? Next point is what here, cultivating present hedonistic mindfulness, right? So here mindful breaks here, that schedule shorts, I'm just schedule short pockets is daily to fully release obviously sensory experiments, example like savoring a cup of tea. So your creative spontaneity, try a new hobby, right? Or explore an unfamiliar place without planning, right? So the next point is what, reducing fatalism, right? Loss of control exercise, list areas you can influence and commit to one small action in each, right? So a cognitive reconstructive, cognitive restructuring challenge here, nothing I do matters, right? Thoughts by identifying past successes. So here strengthening future orientation, time distance visualizations, image here that time distance visualizations here, imagine like yourself at age 80 looking back, what regrets would you want to avoid? Implementation, intentions, pair desires, right? Behaviors, if then I will, the automate goal striving, right? Next point is what, engaging transcendent what that word, engaging transcendental thought, right? So legacy mapping is what, reflect on what personal and societal contributions you can wish to leave behind. So here existential dialogue, contemplate morality in constructive ways. Example here, memento mori reflections to appreciate each day, right? So here the next point is what, application across domains, right? Health and well-being, balanced time perspective predicts healthier lifestyle, faster recovery from illness, and obviously lower burnout among caregivers, right? So education and work here, future orientation here, obviously enhances academic performance, right? While present hedonisms bolsters creativity and innovations here. Employers can tailor motivation strategies by matching tasks to obviously employees' time profiles, right? So your relationships is what here, that couples whose partners have complementary time perspectives, example like one more present hedonistic here, one more future oriented, right? Report higher satisfaction when they learn to negotiate a middle ground, right? So here clinical psychology, time therapy interventions help treat depression, right, by reducing past negative thoughts and the focus, right, and anxiety by curbing excessive future worry, right? So next point is what here, critics and limitation, right? So here cultural variation, not all societies value the same time perspective equally. For instance, here some indigenous cultures prize communal post positive orientations over future planning, right? So a dynamic change, even life events, trauma, success, aging, right, can obviously shift one's time profile over time, maintaining balance in an ongoing process, right? So here measurement gnosis, right, self-report here, inventories have inherent biases, right? triangulating with behavioral measures, right? Strengths, conclusion, right? So the key takeaways is what here: awareness is empowering. Recognizing your own time perspective gives you a powerful lever for, obviously, it's a powerful lever of personal change, right? So your balance beats extremists, right? Extremists, even positive ones like relentless future planning, carry obviously hidden cost, strive for BTP. So practical time therapy works: simple daily exercise, right? Here journaling, mindfulness, visualizations can gradually reshape your temporal mindset, right? So here the next point is what time shapes every domain, from health and relationships to careers and obviously happiness. How you view time is often the single strongest predictor of outcomes, right? So here by shedding light on the invisible force of this perspective, and obviously equipping us with concrete tools to rebalance our outlooks, the time paradox offers both a compelling diagnosis of why we think and behave as we do, and a hopeful path towards living more fulfilling adaptive lives, right? So here the moral education, if I'm talking about the moral education, everything is connected with the moral education, right? There is something where we actually learn and earn something in our life, right, from it, that moral education, and obviously a life lesson from the time paradox, right? So while the time paradox is rooted in psychology, it conveys deep moral and psychological lessons that can transform one's character, worldview, right, and obviously path in life. Obviously here Zimbardo's work subtly teaches us how to live with greater awareness, accountability, and obviously meaning of rethinking how we view time, right? So let's now break down the life lessons, moral takeaways, and real world motivation examples in a structured way, right? First point is what awareness of time is awareness of self, right? So what we choose to focus on, past, present, future, defines how we live our lives, right? Life lesson is what a moral is self-awareness, the way we unconsciously learn towards one time framed, shaped our emotions, reaction, and identity, realizing this puts us back in control. Time isn't just passing, it's something we can use intentionally, right? So real life example is what here: Malala Yousafzai, right? So here, even after surviving a near fatal Taliban attacks at age 15, right, Malala didn't dwell on her past trauma, avoiding obviously a past negative mindset, right? Instead she learned instead she leaned into a future oriented and obviously transcendental perspective, advocating here for education for girls worldwide, right? So her vision of a better future gave her resilience and purpose, right? So moral point is what here, that don't let your painful past define you. Use it fuel a greater purpose, right? So the next point is what the power of future oriented mindset. The power of a future oriented mindset, right? Those who plan and persist for the future as more likely to succeed, right, but must avoid burnout by integrating joy and rest. So life lesson is what delayed gratification and strategic planning are powerful tools for success, but a life lived only in the future can become joyless, right? So the moral is to build dreams while living today with awareness and presence, right? So real life example is what Elon Musk is here is the embodiment of future orientation, whether launching electric vehicles of colonizing Mars, right? He constantly visualizing what's next at the amidst to neglecting his obviously present, right? So relationship, mental health, reminding us that imbalance has emotional cost. Moral point is what aim high, don't forget to pause, right? Breathe and reconnect with your present life. Third point is what heal the past, forgiveness and gratitude, right? You can't change your past, but you can change how you relate it, right? How you relate it. The next point is what here, that people stuck in a past negative mindset, right, carry emotional burden, regret, shame, resentment. The moral lesson is that forgiveness of self or others, and gratitude for what was good can lead to healing, right? So here real life example is what Nelson Mandela. The next example is Nelson Mandela. He was a president of South Africa, right? So yeah, after spending 27 years in prison, right, under obviously apartheid, Nelson Mandela emerged not bitter but hopeful and here inclusive. He famously forgave, his jailers, and obviously led South Africa towards unity. Right? He reframed his past, transforming pain into strength. So moral point is what? Forgiveness frees the forgiven. I'm going to say forgiver, right? I'm going to say here, forgiveness frees the forgiver. Don't let old wounds close off your future, right? Next point is what? Embracing the present with joy but not recklessness, right? Living for the here moment, right? Bring richness but without thought it become destruction. So here the life lesson is what? A present hedonistic mindset makes life vibrant, right? It teaches us to live fully, enjoy art, nature, relationships, but if unchecked, it can be lead to addictions, depth, or broken relationships. So real life example is what? Here Anthony Bourdain, right? The late chef and traveler celebrated the present moment, eating street food in Vietnam, right? Laughing with strangers, embracing life joys, right? But his struggle with inner turmoil, reminds us even joy needs grounding. So the moral point is what? Here savor the moments but don't let it consume your future or hide your pain, right? Next point is what? Avoid present fatalism. You are not powerless, right? Believing nothing matters is often a lie we tell ourselves when we have been hurt too much. Life lesson is what here? Those stuck in a present fatalistic view often feel like victims of fate. The moral education here is that while we can't control everything, we can choose how to respond. There is always a way forward, right? So real life example is what here? Oprah Winfrey, here born in poverty, abused as a child, and faced with systematic obviously racism, right? Here Oprah had every reason to feel powerless, but she rewrote her story one choice at a time. She shifted from fatalisms to empowerment. So the moral point is what here? That you may not control your start, but you can shape your ending, right? So next point is what? Thinking beyond yourself. Transcendence, right, is what? Thinking beyond yourself. What legacy will you leave behind? What story will you be remembered for? Life lesson is what here? A transcendental future perspective involves thinking beyond our lifetime to your legacy, your impact, and even spiritual beliefs. It teaches purpose, altruism, humanity. So real life example is what? Mother Teresa. Her work with the poor in Calcutta wasn't for fame and gain, right? She saw her services as spiritual fulfillment, thinking in terms of eternity, not economic. So the moral point is what here? That meaningful life is often one lived in service of something greater than yourself. So the final moral tools for personal change is what here? Time diary. First is time diary. Track how you spend your hours, right? It obviously reveals what time zone you actually live in, right? Second point is what? 3 question exercise. Ask yourself daily, what from my past am I grateful for, right? Here, what in the present gives me joy? What in the future am I working toward? Third point is what? Mentor reflection, right? So you study biographies of people you admire, right? What time perspectives did they use? Imitate their mental models, right? So final reflection, right? Your time is your life. Here Zimbardo's the time paradox isn't just a psychological framework, it's a mirror asking us whether you are drifting through life or steering it. Time is the one currency we all spend equally, second by second, right? So ask yourself, am I learning from the past, not living in it? Am I enjoying the present, not escaping in it? Am I planning the future, not fearing it? Am I living a life that matters beyond me? Conclusion of the point is what? The legacy of time. Time is not money. Time is everything. The statement was delivered by Zimbardo, right? So if you can master your time perspective, right? If you can master your time perspective, you can master your life. By learning to balance all dimensions of life, you step into the highest version of yourself, wise from the past, grounded in the now, right? And driven by hopeful vision of tomorrows. Right. So this is all about the time paradox, the new psychology of time. Right. So yeah.